things, it's like, we're just really trying to, be a place where, to really, get men involved again into the church. And how do you think that's what happened?
That's a good question. I mean, because church has been so feminized to a degree, I have to say that. It's somewhat feminized, whereby whereby a lot of times
found the chalk.
Oh, is this? I had to feel that probably.
And this is nothing against any of you ladies. We thank God for the women.
I'm not going after any women or anything like that.
I just need to make that clear, just in case anybody thought it.
But unfortunately, it's no other way to say this. Unfortunately, the deception that has been given to a lot of men is that church is for
women,
females.
Mm-hmm.
That real men.
The real men don't go to church.
Don't need church.
Outside of
outside of partaking of some of the women.
And so you either a hustler or a pimp, something like that. You trying to run a hustle, or you a pimp or something of that nature. And you don't really understand. What you don't really understand, it was really when I got a chance to really, it wasn't really until I had rededicated my life to the Lord and really began to start seeking Him and being a part of ministry, that I really got a chance to understand who I was as a man. God says, I know the thoughts that I have toward you. And God understands the things, everything about us, God knows. And to get the information, you got to go to where He is.
Right, yeah.
And so a lot of folk do a lot of different things to try to find themselves, and don't understand that, in order to really know who you are, you have to have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
You got to have a relationship with God in order to know who you are. And so for you not to put yourself in those places, to be able to understand who He is, because it comes with understanding who He is. As you understand who He is, you begin to understand who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of men who have forfeited the benefit of getting to understand who they are, because they don't take the time to spend time with God.
Which is a real important key, because, you really are not going to know how to grow as a man, and not only grow as a man, but grow in Christ when you are apart from Him. Women are not the only ones who, and the real reality is that so many people fall in that trap, and that's really of the enemy, because God has called men to a special seat of authority. Not that they are superior than women, but there's a certain calling that God has put on the man, and an assignment that He's put on the man, that only a man who's filled with the Spirit would be able to unlock in his own children. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so that is the biggest key when we're talking about the importance of having manly mentors and godly mentors, because it does matter about where you're learning stuff from. And other times you see that the father figures are absent, and then when you think around these times, people hate the thought of Father's Day, and that's not good. You know what I mean? That's not good. Unfortunately, there has been things to happen. Unfortunately, people may not have gotten the same opportunity that we may have been afforded of, but there's still great men out there, and there's still a call for men in this time to really be who God has called them to be at this time. You know what I'm saying?
Man, okay.
And that's really important for us to understand.
You got solids, right?
No, I got stripes.
You got stripes, and I got solids.
Yeah.
Right.
And, and the main thing is that to be honest, sometimes we as men, we as men really aren't honest with ourselves.
Did y'all catch that? Did you catch that? I'm sorry.
We're not honest with ourselves, because men want relationship with other men, and men want to be. They want to be able to. Some men really want to be able to tap into their spiritual side,
Right.
but they kind of think that if they do, that's kind of being weak. When in reality is that's where your strength lies.
Yeah, that makes you strong.
That's
Some
where
people,
your-
I mean,
that's
like,
where your
listen,
strength lies.
dude, you crying, I'm not saying you just, boo-hooing, but I'm just saying, like, stuff like in church, like, I saw grown men cry in church. You know what I'm saying? Or, because of the presence of God. Not in a feminine way, but they're just being in themselves. Sometimes what we have to do is create better atmospheres for our environments for men to come together
I have solid.
and to really, see the importance of a relationship with Christ. And in talking about relationship with Christ, that also gets us to the point, because when you have a true relationship with Christ and a true understanding of who He is, then you're able to have better relationships when it comes down to people. And so that's one of the things that, like I said, I'm about to get married, and my parents have been married for like over 30 years, I would say.
Yeah, it's over 30.
Yeah, it's over 30 years. I don't know the specific. It's better to trust yourself to say over 30.
It'll be 32 in August.
32 in August. So over 30 years. And so I've seen my father, not only my father, but I've seen my grandfather, like really take care of his wife until the point of death. You know what I'm saying? And you can only do that when you have a real relationship with Christ. You know what I'm saying? That's, a real relationship to help you know how to love one another. So what are some of the things that you could give a person, advice as far as relationship-wise?
Well, no, start with him. He's getting married. What is your advice to newly about to get married?
My advice to a newly person getting married is that commitment is everything. Commitment is everything. Well, most people, and your mother's going to say, well, you gotta love the person. Well, you do gotta love the person, but in demonstrating your love for somebody, you have to demonstrate commitment.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Sometimes there's gonna be days that you ain't feeling your spouse. There's gonna be days you love them, but we loving each other, but I ain't feeling you right now. And there's days that she felt that way about me. But the main thing, one of the things that your mother and I have always stood on, our principle for our marriage has been that we will always put our relationship above ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We always put our relationship above
that's
ourselves. Our marriage, our commitment to our marriage relationship is bigger than either one of us individually.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we've always been. So we set aside our differences. We are willing to work things through because we're committed to our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And we're committed to our family. And so we don't put ourselves above our relationship. And so that's one of the things that we our principle that we've always stood by. So when it's not like we have argued, it's not like we haven't argue with one another. We haven't been upset with one another. But one of the things that we've committed to is that even when we argue, when we fuss with one another, normally we get it right quickly. Most of the time, we try to get it right within that day. There's been a few occasions that it's spilled over for a day or two, but most of the time we don't go long without getting it right, without trying to make it right between us. And so you love one another without a doubt. You love one another without a doubt. But in love there is commitment. And so when you place your marriage and your relationship and your family as the highest priority, and you don't allow your selfish part of yourself to be more important than your relationship, then you can have some longevity in that. And so, but also, but the other side of it is that you have to have a genuine care for the person that you're with, that you would want to do life with them. My grandfather, the wise guy I told you about,
right.
His name is Levi Butts. And he told me this when I was very young. And I was very young. I was seeing your mother because I've known your mother since I was in high school. And so your grandfather and your grandmother, well, he's your great-grandfather, actually. He's your great-grandfather, my grandfather. And your grandmother, my mother, we were in the house one day, and my grandfather had been, now, his first wife I never met. She died before I was born. So my grandfather had been single all of my life up until I was about 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So all of my life till I was about 18 years old, my grandfather had been single.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had met this lady, it was an old friend of his, met her, and he finally got married after all these years.
Mm.
After all these years. And so I was at the house and I asked him, I said, Granddad, how after all of these years you decided to get married? And so he said, well, son, he said, this lady really cared about me. She wanted to do things for me. She cared about my well-being. She always looked out for my best interests. There was times where, I would do things for her, but then, she would do things for me as well. And so she told me, he said, when you find somebody who genuinely cares about you, who genuinely has your best interests at heart, then you should make sure that you stay with that person. He said, I don't really understand some of these young people. He said, because they go searching for stuff, and sometimes they have that person right there. They have the person in front of them, but they're searching for something, and they go past the person that is for them. And so when I was dating your mom at the time, and so my mother, who was sick at the time, she was in the bed, and so my mother said, he has a girlfriend like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow. Made me think. I was like, well, that's interesting. Because, I was young. I was still, around, I was about 18 years old. I was 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. And, and I was a baller, and all of that.
Mine is the shot caller. he wasn't shot calling like that.
Yeah, And so, but from that conversation with my grandfather, it told me that, you don't, and your mother was like that. She always had my best interests at heart. She genuinely cared for me. And so I thought about that. I thought from what my grandfather said. And I thought about how my mother confirmed that. And from that day, truthfully, it was then, even before you were born, You know, it wasn't like we were expecting you at the time. You weren't quite, you know. From that day, truthfully, I had made it up in my mind that your mother was going to be the woman that I was going to marry.
Yeah.
What would be your advice? You know how Solomon gave advice to his sons.
And that's really the premise.
And this is what the
of
premise
this whole entire thing really is. Did you not get one of my balls?
Nope.
Get inside that ball. Okay.
And that's really what it is, how Solomon gave advice to his sons. Now listen, since you said that you knew that you was going to do that with mom there, we're going to run down some quick things on why, right?
Yeah.
What you should look for. What were the things that made you know that that you was going to marry mom? That you could potentially, like, general rules or general principles.
Rules of, like, you know, fathers even to the sons that are out there.
Who may be watching, who may have a young lady out there who you know that you possibly should marry.
Or any relationship
advice
for them. You know, father these people.
Well, I mean, your mom. Now, I'm just gonna be honest. You know, first thing that caught my eye was your mom's outward appearance.
All right. So number one.
Let me tell you this story real quick. I'll tell you this story real quick. I met your mom on a Friday night in January. I want to say it was in 83. Friday night, January 83 at Archbishop Curley High School. I was playing a basketball game against Curley High School. And your mother walked in the gym. Your mother had this outfit on, and she looked good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's all I'm going to say. She looked good. I noticed her.
Number one.
I noticed her. And so I told my friend Dwayne, I said, I asked my friend Dwayne, we were in the layup line actually. We were in the layup line warming up for the game. And I said to my buddy Dwayne, I was like, who's that? You know her? And he said, no, not really. I said, so I bet him. I said, I bet you I get her number before we leave tonight. So I bet him. And so we played the game. And so after the game, came up into the hallway, and she was there. Now she and one of her friends knew another guy on our team named Mac. We call him Mac. And so when I came up, I was like, who's those girls over there? And they said, well, they're with Mac. And so when they said they was with Mac, I was like, oh, okay. So my friend Mac.
Well, that was about to disqualify.
So, because I didn't know if it was her or if he was with her friend.
Right.
So Mac calls me over.
Another lesson. You can be disqualified.
Mac
Who you may be around.
It's like, so Mac calls me over and introduced me to her. And so I was like, wow, okay. And so I got her number. I got her number that night. I did, so I won the bet. So, and so I got her number that night, and I think I called her maybe 2 days after or something like that.
You didn't want to seem too thirsty.
No. I didn't. So I called her 2 days after.
Cover your tracks.
And so I called her 2 days after, and we chit-chatted a little bit on the phone. And so...
these are, these were... phone lines, not cell phones.
Yeah, and
not Snapchat.
No FaceTime.
There was no FaceTime. No Instagram.
Yeah, so it was fun. So I mean, truthfully, the first point is really to say all of that is to say there has to be some attraction.
Yeah.
There has to be some attraction. So you know that it all starts with attraction, but then attraction alone is not just enough. Mm-hmm. You know, there has to be something more than just attraction. You know, your mom is an intelligent lady, and she carried herself as a lady. You guys are grown. Look, you guys are grown. I will tell you this. I'm going to tell you this. You guys are grown. All right? Here we go.
I hope you guys are enjoying this.
Yeah, I will tell you this, girl. So I go over, the first time I go over to your mother's house. to see her. You know, your mother, you know, has on this top. She has on this top. That top is laced in the front, so you can really kind of see some of her breasts. But it goes all the way up to her neck. So immediately, I thought to myself, this means you got to understand language here. Mm-hmm. What she had on meant that we're not going to do much today.
But I am gonna let you see your picture.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
I see what you're saying. So that's what she, you know.
She's a lady.
So she was, you know, she was cool. And I'm gonna tell you, now, I'm just gonna tell you, I told you I was saved at 16 years old. I was genuinely saved at 16 years old, but I was carnal. Yeah. And you know what? I had every intentions of trying to go as far as I could. And every intention. And so yeah, I was. Just, you know, that's just the honest truth. But, you know, your mother, you know, handled herself very well. Your mother handled herself very well. And it told me something. Because had I had an opportunity with her very quickly, I wouldn't have had no trust for her. And so, you know, this stuff, you know, it's different nowadays, you know.
Yeah. Another point I would like to give to you, brothers.
We're teaching you something. We're trying to teach you something in here.
You know, it's different now. You know, people be like, you know, but I would tell you, had your mother been someone who was willing to kind of, you know, let me drive the car quickly, I would have been like, I don't know if, you know, that would always, you know, that was kind of quick. So if I was that quick, how quickly was the other brother or something like that? Yeah. So you know, I had to think, you know, I thought about that. I genuinely thought about that. I hope
you're taking some notes in here.
And so, and the other part is that about just not about her, but her family. You know, when I got a chance to meet her mom, got a chance to meet her dad, you know, I could see that she had a good upbringing, a solid upbringing, that she came from a family that was really rooted. And so, because that's important, because when you are, the environment in which you grow up in plays a lot and has a lot to do with the person that you become. And so there was things, you know, that I could see, and I joke with you guys about this all the time, and we joke about this all the time. I knew that if I was gonna marry your mom, I knew she loved to shop. I knew it. And so that's why, even though I joke, you know, sometimes those have been contentious conversations for us. But but this is the issue. I knew going into our relationship that that's something that she would do for the duration of our relationship. And when I said I do, I had to accept that.
Yeah. You know,
I had to accept that. I had to know, because I knew going in that's who she was.
Mm-hmm. And you know the sad part about it, it seems like I inherited that. It seems really bad. I feel like I've inherited that with Otisio. I love you, but Jesus.
And so, oh man, that should have won. So when you're in a relationship and you're moving towards marriage, you know, you have to come to know those things about your spouse, and you got to say to yourself, is that a deal breaker or not? Can I handle that for the duration of our relationship? Is there something, some habit, some type of is there something, a characteristic? Is there a characteristic, some kind of habit, some kind of behavior that your potential spouse exhibits? Is that something that I know that I can go into this relationship and handle it without trying to change the person?
Right.
Without trying to change the person, because the deal is that some people can go into a relationship and say, well, I see that, but I'm going to get that person to change.
Right.
I'm going to get that person. You can't get nobody to change.
Another lesson that I want to make that if you can't change the person, you can't change them. They are what they are.
Yeah,
if they were shopaholics in the beginning, they'll be shopaholics.
You can't. Now, a person can change, and your mother, I'm not going to, your mother knows there's certain things that she does. She, in her mind, this is her mom. Your mom thinks. Your mom is a very...
No, mom is, if I get something for you, all is well in the world.
That's part of it. I can't burn it down. But see, this is your mom. Your mom said, but I shop. I look for discounts. She looks for discounts. She's a discount shopper, and she looks for good bargains and all of that type of stuff. But the deal is, this is the deal. With that, no matter how discounted it is,
it still adds up.
You still spending money. So you have to be able to know that those are type of things that you have to look at qualities, characteristics, behavior of your spouse, and you got to ask yourself, can I handle that? If she never changes, can I handle that?
Right.
And a lot of times people are not realistic about it, because why is it that people can, I don't care how pretty a woman is, she can be very beautiful, but living with them is a whole nother story.
Right. Yeah.
And you got to know that this person is somebody, whatever that is. What if you know that you're not going to be able to handle a particular thing that that person exhibits, then it's best not to move towards a relationship with that person, because eventually that you're not going to be able. That's going to be the thing that's going to just take you over the top. It's going to be like, I can't handle this no more.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think that's good, solid advice that, you have to see about the qualities of the people that you're dating. And I guess we one other thing, because being a father, we talked about it as far as, father and sons, but you have a daughter,
right?
And things like that. And so what do you...
How
is that?
How do you do that?
How do you
to the fathers who have daughters? Like, how do you speak to them?
John Mayer says, fathers, be good to your daughters.
Yeah, fathers, be good to your daughters.
So how was it like? Just what are your thoughts concerning like being? It's on me, right?
Yeah.
As far as
Well, it was funny. It was funny because we have to go back a little bit, and between you and Brandon, there's 7 years, and in between those 7 years, your mom had several miscarriages, and so which were very, each one was different situations, and some were really tough. All of them was tough, and some of them was even tougher than others. So when we finally had Brandon, we just knew we were blessed by God to have him. We were blessed by God to have him, and so we were excited because we were believing God for another child, because we didn't want you to be the only child.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't have minded a baby, but you like it now.
At one point, I was like, I don't want to, baby. I guess because the babies were coming, so I was like, so I'm preparing,
right.
to,
Right. So, But yeah, so we never wanted to be we didn't want you to be an only child, and a lot of times, it took a lot of faith. We it challenged our faith a lot too, because there were some people, because while we were going, good intentioned people, sometimes Job friends, good intention, but they just don't say the right things. Maybe you guys shouldn't try anymore.
Right.
And so maybe you shouldn't try.
Doubters.
But we just kept believing.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
We kept believing God, and so some nights before we would go to bed, we would pray. We would pray together and ask God to bless our time of relations.
I was wondering how you would say that.
Lord, come among me tonight.
Rise among us.
And so we did, and so you finally came along. And so we were excited about you. And we had this doctor. His name was Dr. Kennedy, and he helped us tremendously. The Lord gave him wisdom about some things in reference to your mom's body. And so, because your mom was having pressure fluctuations a lot of times, and so he saw that, and he was able to give her proper medication and things of that nature. And so when we finally had you, we was all excited, and and then Brittany came basically, she's 14 months after you. She's 14 months younger than you. And so we found out that your mom was pregnant with Brittany. It was hilarious because first we went to see the doctor, Dr. Kennedy, and Dr. Kennedy was like, what are you guys doing? Because he was going through the highs and the lows with us with the miscarriage, with some of the miscarriages as well. So, he was like, what are you guys doing? I said, well, Doc, we like you so much, we just trying to give you some more business. And so, but the funniest one was your grandmother. Your grandmother, when we finally told your grandmother, when we was in the basement, and your grandmother was sitting down in the chair, and when we told her that, your mom was pregnant, she would just get nervous whenever your mother or your aunt would get pregnant. She just got nervous. And so your grandmother was sitting in the chair. She didn't say nothing. She got up from the chair and just walked up the steps. And she just went upstairs. She stayed up there for a while. She came back down later and she just said, well, congratulations, but I can't tell y'all nothing. So y'all ain't even let that boy stay on your knee long enough. And so when we had Brittany, and I knew, actually, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and told me that she was going to be a girl.
Mm-hmm.
The Holy Spirit told me that she was going to be a girl. And so, and it was almost like she was actually a gift for your mother, mm-hmm. to some degree, to have a girl, mm-hmm. to have a girl. So it's the great thing about this, of her being the baby, is that you guys, that has helped me tremendously, which I would say was you guys were like the protective older brothers. And because Brandon and her was so close in age, they were almost, some people thought they were twins. Some people thought they were twins because they were so close in age. So those guys, so you guys have helped, keep an eye out and kind of ward off some of the
sinners.
Yeah. And help ward off some of those, some of the young fellas that has kind of come along. So that's been a bit, that was a tremendous help to me. But the other thing is that I always, for me, I just wanted to be a role model to her in regards to how I handled your mother, so mm-hmm. she could see what it would be like, or what a man looks like, that that would she would want as a spouse when the time came for her. Mm-hmm. That this is the way a relationship should look. Mm-hmm. So my thing is that I always wanted to model, and not just for her, but for you guys as well, but even more so for my daughter, to know what a man that she would want as a spouse should look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to model that before her. But I also wanted to model that for you guys as well. But that is important for a woman because, you know, they have some more vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
you know, than men. So that was one of the things that was important for me. So I always wanted her to see that I respected her mom, that
Mm-hmm.
I treated her mom well, and you know, and that I respected her and treated her well. And so even as she grew up, you know, we did the same thing for her. All of you guys had different areas of talent and
Mm-hmm.
gifting. You know, coming up, Brandon had, you know, he played a little basketball, so we put him in basketball. Brittany was a dancer, so we put her in dance. And so, you know, we did the same thing. We saw what she did, and we tried to encourage her in those areas that what she did as well. So, you know, it's, you know, you guys as a father, you know, you guys talked to me, you know, you just told me what you respect about me and some of the things that I've done to encourage you guys. But you guys have been an encouragement to me as a dad, you know, to be able to look at your children and see the things that they have done, to see how you have grown up and matured as young men and as a young woman is really a blessing to me as a father. And I know your mom is absolutely blessed by who the people that you have become and are still becoming. So I'm greatly blessed to be able to see it materialize. And so your mother and I are happy that God has given us wonderful opportunity to us to be somewhat active and
My only prayer is
Your
that I
life.
have that same grace.
That's been a prayer. I really want to be able to like our kids. But we love you. It's on me, right?
yeah.
Oh, and wait a minute. I have solids, right?
That's correct, brother.
Okay.
Yeah, you're about to get your butt whooped.
Man, listen, we hope that you guys have gotten something out of the father and son's conversation for Father's Day. Again, we love our dad. I hope you guys took something out of it. Again, we want to say happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there and all of the fatherly figures who have stepped in the role where others may have gone away. And so this is what this is all about. And we want you to know that we love you here at Transformation Christian Fellowship. We're going to keep playing pool for the rest of the night. I hope that I can get some type of revenge. But listen, we love you guys. Happy Father's Day to you. I hope you enjoyed this special. And remember, transformation starts here.